So, years later, I got a chance to find people I knew who had drum sets, and they just would let me play, and I would just figure things out, and I would watch things and watch music videos on MTV and other things, and learn on my own all the wrong ways, how to play drums in terms of like how to grip sticks and how to do stuff. Like I was just totally robot arms.
To the HERshyt Show, where we talk about people, places, and things. Hello, and welcome to this week's The HERshyt Show, where I have the honor and privilege of speaking to Sully on drums from Dream the Heavy, all the way from Pittsburgh, which used to live in Georgia but decided to migrate, but that's here nor there. That's okay. How are you doing today?
First of all, as far as anyone knows, I am from parts unknown, and that is what we're sticking with.
That's it. That's all.
That is it. I am great. I am so happy to be here. It is very, very, very nice to get to talk to you.
It is amazing that you came on, and I am glad that I actually got introduced to the music recently.
Right. So my understanding is you're in the Atlanta area.
Yes, I am in the Atlanta area.
So how did you find us a Pittsburgh band? Yeah. Now I'm doing the interview questions right off the gate.
See how the tables turn there? Yes. I like that.
How the tables turn. Spinning around.
So I actually found y'all on social media through the Dukester podcast family page, and I was just scrolling. Yes. And they had put out there about this amazing band, and they had tagged two other pages about doing an interview, and I hopped into the comments and was like, you didn't tag me, but I'm here. And I put my email address, and we went from there.
So Dukester, I'm not quite sure how we ended up on his radar, but he has been, it has been so wonderful to have him include us in his playlists on a weekly or bi-weekly basis. So we're really, really grateful. And we're very, very happy that you've gotten a chance to be exposed to us too, and to get to talk to you.
Yeah. Social media is an amazing thing, because this would not have been that easy back in the early 2000s and before. So.
Correct.
Mm-hmm. So how did... I read up on it, and I know about the website, which we're going to put out in shortly. But there's an amazing, quick little story that you have on the website, but I want to hear it. How did the band come together, and when?
So, 2.5 years ago, I found an ad, or maybe I had posted an ad onto Craigslist musicians here in the Pittsburgh area. And I was solicited by Paul Dean Price III to join a band that he was already in. And he told me at some point that he was also bringing in a guitarist to try out for the band as well, as they were looking to kind of reinvent some of the music. We came in and we just jammed and played around, and it was actually pretty good. It felt pretty nice and pretty natural. To play with somebody that I hadn't played with before, and it actually be two people, it was very, very uncommon. So we came back the next week, and Paul told us, he said, hey, the other band is no more. They've called it quits. So I kind of feel like we should start something new. So we forged forward, and we set out to jam and to write a little bit, and to take some existing work that we had worked on independently outside of the band, and to try to roll into some ideas. Fast forward a few months later, and we had a singer come through who there was potential, but it didn't work out, and she moved on. And then Paul comes to us one day and says, hey, I have met this guy who lives in my area, and I kind of want to bring him in. And he brought him in, and he came in for 20 minutes on a rehearsal, or I guess a practice at that point. And I told him, it's like, you are the most lead looking lead singer I've ever met in my entire life. And I don't think he knew how to take that. I'm very, very direct and very, very forward. And I think he thought I was probably screwing with him a bit, and I wasn't. He came back a week or so later, and we were already jamming when he got there. And he came in, he put his phone down, he started recording, and we were in the middle of a jam when he came in. And he didn't interrupt. He just came in, tried to get set up a little bit, and hit record on his phone and plugged his mic in, and he just started playing with us. And after the end of this first thing that we did, he says, "That's great. You know, is that something you've been working on?" And Paul says, "No, it's jam." He's like, "That's pretty amazing." And then you hear him pull his keys out of his pocket and put them down. And I say that because we recorded the whole, because TK recorded the whole thing, and we go back and listen to the recordings, and it's so interesting to hear this very first time of him in front of the microphone with us, and he's singing with us and working with us so quickly and so well before he even has his coat off.
So it was pretty much meant to be. It just harmoniously came together.
We have an album that just came out on April 12th, Into the Unknown. There are 2 songs. There is Candy and there is Eyes of a Killer. Both those songs were written, jammed out. Nothing was written when we went into the session. We're jammed out on the very first time TK came to sing with us. And if you go back and listen to the original jammed out arrangement versus the album version, like, the arrangement is almost spot on. Wow. There's obviously some maturation in terms of the way we play and a few choices we've made, but like in terms of like the steps we take and where the choruses and verses and the solos and stuff are, it's all there from day zero. And fast forward to over a year later, we're recording the songs almost the same way we originally played them off the top of our head. And
y'all ended up winning first place in the Battle of a Band, right?
We won. So the story behind the Battle of the Bands is we had released that original jam to a few people, and it got around. It made some rounds. And we were able to get in front of someone who was putting on the Battle of the Bands. It was Brian Dowden of Shell Shock Multimedia. And he contacted us and asked us to be a part of the Battle of the Bands, and we won the first heat. Mm-hmm. Now, I say we did that. Before that, we had played one show, and it was an open mic night at Mr. Small's Funhouse, where we played a total of 3 songs across 2 sets. And the next set we played as a band was the Battle of the Bands, and we won the first heat. And
y'all hadn't even been together long.
No, it was only a few months at that point. That happened in May of that year, and we I think TK's first jam with us was in early February.
Wow, that is amazing. Not many people have a backstory like that, especially for it to come together so smoothly the way that y'all did.
It is a collection of the summation of us. So it is. There is the rhythm section that it consists of Paul and I, and Paul and I work really, really well together. And then we have Mathias, who can just sweat just brilliant riffs and just super melodic, not complex, not always complex. Sometimes they're interesting. Sometimes they're really simple, but he knows what to play to make a thing work. And there are times when he comes to us with like, "Hey, do you guys want to write a song?" And there's only, at the time, 3 of the 4 of us in the room, and we write a song, which is actually ended up being the opener for the album, Flame. We wrote that song, and we jammed it out. We talked a bit, and I went home, and it's the only one I wrote lyrics on. TK, brilliant lyricist, has written everything else on the album, but it was the Flame felt like such a great kickoff that it ended up taking the place that it's at, and it really kind of gets you into the mood for the rest of the album. So we're super happy with that. But like we all bring things to the table. Then there is Until Tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
Until Tomorrow was one of those that was written with some instrument swapping. So the bassist and the guitarist swap instruments, and we played with some ideas, which eventually turned into what it is now. Then there is. Yeah, then there's other songs where we have written remotely, like That Kind of Love. That Kind of Love was written specifically to be for the Battle of the Bands, and I wasn't in the room when it was written, and they sent it to me remotely, and I got to listen to it and play with it, and then I came back and we talked through kind of what they felt they wanted. Paul, especially having a lot of input in terms of what he hears in terms of the drum feel, and I kind of take that idea and meld it with my own, and it turns into what I thought was just going to be this kitschy little thing that we did to kind of get people's attention has become one of my favorite songs to play because it's Bonham-esque. It's very, but there's also like some progressively things that are kind of buried in there. And it's this really interesting classic rock vibe with a lot of like punkiness and just in your faceness to it.
Now, when speaking of the classic rock side, right? So the song Beautiful, that is the one, I know before we hit record, we was talking about it, but that's the one that put me in that David Bowie mind frame. That I love is the old classic soft rock kind of deal. You know what I mean? So I love that. I actually played that a few times.
That song actually was born from a piece that our guitarist had written before he met us. And I still love listening to the original. It's such an interesting comparison to the two. But when we started to play it out and we really started to work through it, we took those initial ideas that he had brought to us and then I had written drum parts for. And then we just kind of like we added some tempo and we added a bit more texture, and then we added this great dramatic pause, and it really became, to me, I think, a staple in terms of what we love being in terms of a band.
Yeah.
And what encapsulates, like, it is that, you're right, it's that classic rock, it's that funk, it's that it's the
White Snake and the David Bowie, like that era for me, just the way that it flows. That's what it.
Yeah, there is that great poppy hook. That vocal hook is so good that TK has in there with the left cuts down fences, which is probably one of my favorite lines across all the songs. I'm waiting to put that on a t-shirt. So look for that coming up here in the next month or two. So we're super happy with how these things have matured into great pieces that we were able to put in our first effort.
Oh yeah, it was definitely, that's what, and I even wrote it down. I was like, David Cordell, like I wrote it down. White Snake. So y'all actually, before I get into, because you have shows coming up that people can go look on, Dream the Heavy. It's actually listed on there, and I wrote a couple of them down because they're upcoming soon. But I do want to ask, as far as your musical journey, when did you decide this is what I want to do?
When I was a kid, I was in probably 5th grade, and my brother was into some really, really good music, some really great mid-late 80s. There was a great mix of like progressive and pop and alternative kind of coming together to make some really interesting stuff. And he was friends with people. He didn't play instruments himself, but he had friends in high school. I was younger, who were pretty good. And he had a friend of his on the drum corps who also played like a full drum set with the band. He was like the chair for drums. And I decided I'm going to go try it for drum corps. So I did, and I made it. But I didn't get a chance to go through with it because I was told I wouldn't stick with it. So years later, I got a chance to find people I knew who had drum sets, and they just would let me play, and I would just figure things out, and I would watch things and watch music videos on MTV and other things, and learn on my own all the wrong ways, how to play drums in terms of like how to grip sticks and how to do stuff. Like I was just totally robot arms.
So you're literally self-taught besides what you did?
I've never taken a drum lesson. All of my learning has been from me learning and then relearning how to play drums, but it's also more importantly learning how to be dynamic. And you can learn, this is the thing about drumming, you can learn all the chops you want. You can be the greatest marching drummer, the studio drummer that you want to be, but until you learn how to write and repeat dynamically, like it makes it a lot more difficult. Like there's people who have great meters, but they don't have the best, I think the most appropriate choices for the type of music that they play. And I hear that a lot where people either underplay or they overplay.
Yeah.
Now, I'm no expert and I'm not a great drummer. I'm really not. I'm pretty basic, but I pride myself on arrangement and dynamics.
Yeah.
And I work with people who I think do really, really well at that too. So together we create something that's pretty fantastic. But I always try to find what I feel is an appropriate phrasing, and then I try to find a way to replicate that in the next attempt, but also make it dynamic so it sounds a bit different.
Brett,
And
anybody watching this right now, you said some key things. You were self-taught, so you're listening, you're practicing, you're staging your own, you're doing your own creations based on and with the sound of the band, right? So you have it in your head. You can play by ear. That's how, or learned by ear because you was, watching other people do it, or, self-taught.
yeah,
But for y'all to come together the way that y'all have and have the sound that y'all have, it is very aspiring, right? For others, you don't have to pay a lot of money. People, like, learn. If you want to learn. he's telling
I mean, don't get me wrong. I took some hard turns, and I made some things difficult for myself by not learning fundamentals.
Yeah.
Like there's still things I struggle with on a fundamental, rudimentary drumming level. But the things that I'm still working on, filling in the blanks that I didn't get when I was a kid. So, but I make up for it, I think, by finding an approach that feels right when I play it.
Okay.
And it feels right to me, and me being a big music fan. Like I got to look at like what I appreciated. Like I was a huge lover of like Stuart Copeland and Neil Peart and then like Danny Carey and Matt Cameron and Dave Abraziz and like all these drummers who really kind of shaped the way I approached drums across that 20 years from my 10s to my 20s.
Yeah.
From my late single digits up to my 20s, like really made a big difference in how I approached what I played. And it's finding the right influence. It's finding the right dynamic and sound and the stylisticness and the stylistic approach, I guess, it really makes a big difference in how you perceive and how you present.
Okay, that is very true. It in a lot of different aspects, but especially if you're going to jump into something that you have to consistently adapt to. Yeah, like you said, start with the fundamentals. And if you don't start with the fundamentals and you're diving in, then you are going to take some heavy hits.
It's definitely going to slow you down. Like learning the basics totally matters. Like I have a practice here pad right here behind me that I use now on a daily basis, where I just go through basic fundamentals of just simple single stroke, double strokes.
So as a kid, I thought that I wanted to play the drums. I really did, and I loved it. They got me a drum set. It didn't last, but like maybe 2 weeks. My stepfather ended up kicking that thing out because I thought I was doing good. Apparently, I wasn't.
I kind of feel like my parents weren't necessarily wrong in their assumption that I wouldn't stick with something.
Yeah.
Because most kids don't stick with things, and at the time I probably didn't stick with a lot anyway. So it just happened to be this was the one thing that here I am now, decades later, still doing.
Yeah, and that is amazing. So Dream the Heavy, how did y'all come up with that name?
We circled around a bit for that a good bit. Like we talked about band names, and me being my ridiculous self, I threw out a bunch of weird, nonsensical band names, and they were like, that's not going to work. So it was between, I think, either Mathias or Paul that eventually Dream the Heavy was laid on the table. There was a whole bunch of ideas around like the aspects of dreams and the aspects of weight heavy that kind of kept circling around between the two of them before we settled on this. And there was this whole debate about like, oh, we don't want to sound like we're too much of a metal band. I'm like, yeah, but the dreaminess aspect of it kind of latches pretty well in terms of what the heaviness is. There's some a bit of that of both of this and this, and we all kind of agreed that I didn't necessarily say those things out loud, but like we all kind of echoed those sentiments, and it did work out that this kind of what we felt would work, and the name seems to capture us, I think, pretty well. Mm-hmm. And the response has been that like people hear the name and they hear the music, I'm like, those two go together. That works. So I have, and then there's, so then we kicked around ideas of logos, and I walked outside one morning at like, my wife owns a donut shop here in the North Pittsburgh area. So I typically wake up here pretty early. So I walked outside one morning, and I looked up and I could see this waning crescent moon. And we had been kicking around ideas for logos. I'm like, I think I see it. I think I see what I want to see. So I went to Melissa and we came up with this idea of like kind of like sketching a circle and then having it bigger on one side, which would be like the glow of that moon, which eventually she was able to articulate that logo for us. Mm-hmm. And so it's become a great staple in terms of it's. Like we've talked about like, oh, a logo should be something you should be able to like repeat, like if you just sat down on a notebook pad and at least get the basic idea of what that logo looks like. Yeah. Like back in the 80s, people used to like sketch out the Van Halen logo and these other things. Right. So there was this big emphasis on what you could draw, and that seemed to capture it pretty well. So that's how we came up with both the name and the visualization of that.
That is amazing. I do like y'all's logo. It's definitely unique, and it does go with the name Dream the Heavy. So dreamtheheavy.com is the website, and people can go on there to get the tickets, get reminders, listen to the music. Like it's literally you just hit play and you can scroll through different pages, and the music's not going to stop because you're on page 2 of the website.
You can hear the whole album through our website. That's one of the things about being a band of this size is I can just upload all of the mastered tracks directly to our website, and you can just go to our website and hit play, and you can hear everything. You can hear the whole album, and you can hear a couple of the singles too. I haven't put the live album up there. For that, you're going to have to go and check us out on all these streaming platforms, which we're available on Apple Music and Spotify and YouTube Music and Amazon Music, any of your streaming platforms of choice. You can also check us out on our Bandcamp page. Look for Dream the Heavy on Bandcamp, and you can go there and you can listen to us. And please, we would love it if you would support us through our website. You can support us through a link on Spotify. You can also do the same thing through Bandcamp.
Yep. And they have shows coming up. I know I done said it about 4 times.
Yes. Let's go through the list of shows coming up, shall we?
So you have Pittsburgh, is it Millville?
It's the Millville Music Festival on the SOS stage at Mr. Smalls. We're actually going to kick off the night on Friday night for the first night of the Millville Music Festival at Pittsburgh's Mr. Smalls Funhouse. So look for that. And then we're going to be at Remedy in Lawrenceburg. Mm-hmm. Lawrenceville on Friday, June 14th. Mm-hmm. And then we are going to be in Warrendale at Jurgles with Gathering the Gloom, which is a Cure tribute, on July 5th. And then we're going to be at Club Cafe on July 12th with Black Ridge and 3 Leagues to Rome. And then we're going to be in Youngstown. And then we're going to be at Penn Brewery for the September 7th with Black Ridge and Chupacabra and DeCaro for a benefit festival.
And you also have a live stream June 20th.
We do have the live stream. I'm looking at the notes, and I don't really have. So we manage I manage our calendar through Songkick, and I don't have a lot of details for that yet, and I don't remember what it is off the top of my head. So please feel free.
That's what I see. June 20th, 2024 live stream. It is on Dream the Heavy website. If you go in there and look at the events, they do the entire that he just spilled out plus.
I think there's some ambiguity in terms of if that is starting the scene or what that is. But as we get closer to that, I'll be able to get more clarification if that is an existing recording, if we're going to do a new recording for that. But I know that we do have some existing shows that we've recorded that are in the process of being mixed and run through. So more on that. Please check back with our website. I'm sure I'll post an article on our front page for any of those major events, and you can feel free to check our calendar.
Now, and to be clear, you got vocals is TK.
The Monk.
You got guitar.
That is Mathias Brown.
And you got bass.
That is Paul Dean Price III, our band Gandalf bass wizard.
And then you got keys.
Keys is Mr. Ryan Miller. He was a brilliant individual who came from us from Bonnie and the Mere Mortals, and he is a super fun guy and comes with a lot of great ideas, and he is absolutely loving this environment where we all get to write together.
And dun dun dun, you have
Sully on drums. That is me. That is me. I go by Sully on drums because nobody really wants to work with a guy whose birth name is Mike Roinhertz.
Mike
Roinhertz.
But listen, my last name is Hershberger. So that's where Hersh came from.
You've never wait. So you never heard of me before? You never heard of Mike Roinhertz?
No.
Oh.
Have not. Now I gotta Google
right.
it.
You should definitely spend some time looking up Mike Roinhertz.
Was he a serial killer?
No.
Oh, okay. Yes. I'm gonna look it up.
He definitely had some sore spots.
What?
He definitely had some sore spots.
Now, after we record this, now I got to go Google something. I'm definitely going to look it up because you said you're not going to go by that because of the comparison of the names. So I'm going to go.
It's just that nobody can take your name seriously if your name's Mike Roinhertz.
I take you seriously, but I got to go look it up to do the comparison. And then I'm going to end up messaging you or emailing you and telling you what I found. So if I agree or not. Now,
you should do that.
Fan interactions. Where can they interact with you at besides just coming to the events?
You can reach us on our social media accounts. Actually, probably the easiest way to find us is look for us on Linktree. Okay. Just Dream the Heavy on Linktree. There you will find links to like all of our streaming services, as well as like Facebook and Instagram and Facebook are where probably we're most prolific. We have been kicking around the idea of opening up our messaging system that we use to public. Okay. So there could be an opportunity for fans to get to interact with us by come hanging out with us on the good old days, like it's an old IRC chat room. So we have some things that we need to work out in terms of being able to manage some of that communication and being able to respond. But it is something that we're looking at doing. But right now, the best way to reach us and interact with us is either our shows or by coming to our Facebook page, which is Dream the Heavy on Facebook, or to our Instagram page, which is just at Dream the Heavy on Instagram.
Well, there it is. Now, what are y'all's plans and aspirations for the near future and the wide future?
We're definitely looking at booking, I think, some bigger shows. We've done pretty well in the past 2 years in terms of gaining some attention. Now I think it's time for us to capitalize on that and start looking at maybe finding some bigger stages to get on. And we're also looking at we're in the early planning stages for a next album. So we have some songs, that a couple of which we're doing live. And if you go find us on YouTube, you might go find one or two of those live versions of some of the new music that we're working on. Okay. But we are absolutely looking at putting an album out probably within the next 18 months.
Wow, that's quick. That's back to back.
That's ideal. Now I say that is best case scenario.
Aspirations. So,
but we're all like people with lives outside of music at this point still. So we have to keep those in mind. But it is definitely something that we are looking at. When we recorded the first album, like I did drums in 2 days. It was a total of about 8.5 hours of my time where we did the drums for those, and it was just super exhausting.
Yeah.
But it was also the thing where like we were playing this music all the time, so I had a lot of what I wanted in my head when I walked into a studio. With the next batch of albums, because we've been focusing so much on supporting now the material that we have and the album that we have out, like we're spending less time on this new material, so it's going to be a much more of a writing process in the studio for the next album as opposed to a recording process.
And adulting comes first. like you said, you got
to pay the bills, man. These fucking guitars are going to pay for themselves, man. These drums, like I gotta be able to support this,
So y'all do the self-promoting. Y'all are pretty much doing everything.
We are 100% in-house. We don't have anything external. Like everything from Paul does 95% of our promotion. He sets up a lot of these conversations with these in podcasts like this, but he's also responsible for most of the live gigs that we get. And we're super, super grateful for him. If it weren't for him, we wouldn't be in front of a third of the people that we were doing. TK brings such a great presence to the stage, and he is so active on social media with Paul to be responding to a lot of our crowd face forward. And that's super fantastic. Ryan is also pitching in to do a lot of that, is now pitching in to do a lot of that promotional stuff and show organizing. I do a lot of the back end. So, I'm responsible for most of the tech that we use. I do our studio recording, well, I guess our rehearsal space recording for demos. I run our internal messaging applications. I run the website. My wife does a lot of the design work. I work with her on creating designs. We do a lot. We're responsible for most of like the promotion of photography, production, not the photography itself, but at least the production of those to get those out into the public. Most of that stuff comes from this side of the house, but we are definitely grateful for all the people who've been involved in getting our faces and our names out into different arenas through different avenues. And we are just so incredibly elated to be part of a budding community, and we all work together to make that happen.
See, a lot of people think we want to get this group together, we want to do that. I'm glad that you broke it down with how much, and that's just a tidbit of what goes on. Speaking it and doing it is two different things, but just the way that you outlined, people need to realize unless you have the money to, or not even the money, if you branch out to other people to come together versus keeping it in-house, you're going to be doing a lot of things, right? And it is time management. And plus you're rehearsing. Plus you're coming up with new music. Plus you got to, practice before you go onto the stage. You got to get together. And I mean, it is a lot going on
Sure.
behind the scenes that people don't get to see. So I like the way that
I think it's
you break it down.
I think it's very important for a band to, in order for a band to feel like they're going to be able to make progress in even the local scene as opposed to a much larger arena, it is a group effort.
Yeah.
Like if you think that one person is going to be able to book all your shows and do marketing and media, and I think again, like you're going to have to zoom out and look at this from a much bigger perspective and think about how much more impact you could make, how much bigger of an audience you could reach, how far could you get your music beyond that small circle if you all pitched in and did a part. And those bands that work together to create that environment where you can cross promote and cross create in these different spaces in terms of like marketing and social media and art and materials and media, like you really have to do all of those things and you have to all be in on it.
Yeah, it's got to be a unity. You're going to get burned out, or somebody's going to end up getting burned out if you just keep it on that one individual. I wholeheartedly agree. And my final question was, did you have any words to put out to aspiring or up and coming artists? And I think you just laid it out. Is there anything else that you want to add to that statement though?
I got one more. Mm-hmm. You can focus on being immaculately articulate in your presentation. You can be super accurate in your performance. But what you have to remember as a performer, you're not just performing a piece, you're an entertainer. You're there to entertain people. The showmanship truly matters. If you can engage with your audience, then the audience can engage with you. So if you really want to be involved with the people who are in front of you, you have to be engaged with them. Mm-hmm. It makes all the difference in the world. Be an entertainer. No matter what you play, if you're a bassist, if you're a flautist, if you're a keyboardist, or if you're a singer or a drummer, be present in the moment and be present with your audience and know them. Like, and especially in the smaller arenas, like go talk to people, hang out with people off stage. And then if they don't get the idea that you're a musician, that's all right. Doesn't matter what they think of you off stage. But they'll see you on stage and like, oh shit, I was just talking to that dude. Mm-hmm. Wow, that's cool. Mm-hmm. And then just play it out, just like be all you can be in that moment and be present. And that's the best you can hope for. Success is not a money game in this industry anymore. Success is self-fulfillment. Fill the soul.
Look, I'm over here just smiling and clapping. I wanted to clap for everybody else. I might need to get the producer to put in a clapping sound.
We can definitely put a clapping sound in there. Fix it in post.
That was amazing, and everything you said was spot on. Because if you aren't focused, or if you aren't adapting or knowing your audience, what else are you gonna be? Stuck up sitting in the back corner and just, I'm the musician. No, you can't do that. I wholeheartedly agree.
Yeah. I've run across those types who are immovable objects, and they just feel like, oh no, you have to do this my way. I'm like, this ain't your show.
Yeah.
Like, this is not your show. When you get to run that show, you get to make those demands. But if it's not your show, don't come to everybody else with how you have to have things. If you ever come across someone who is in a touring act, and if they pull some shit like that, like, they will get kicked off a tour.
Yeah.
They would absolutely get kicked off a tour if you come with any sense of ego and you are not center stage.
Yeah. 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 And that's with anything in life, not just anything in life. Actors, actresses, bands, any type of musician. And like we both have similar backgrounds as far as serving, but we already know. If you do not come with your A game and adaptability skills to whoever is in charge, you will learn very quickly how you can no longer be there because they will politely put you out.
Yeah, just like, come with a little bit of humbleness.
Mm-hmm.
Like, be flexible. That's the best you can be. Like, you don't always get to backline. So you have to be willing to play something that isn't your desired config.
Yeah.
And you've got to adapt to that. This is not my bass rig. Oh, plug in, it still plays, right? Oh, I typically play with a 4-piece. Well, fucking it's a 5-piece. Play around it. Or vice versa, right? So just like figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I normally bring my own amp and pedal board. And like, well, you got your pedal board, but this is not the amp you're using. This is what you're using. Just be flexible. Be flexible.
Yeah.
The thing is if you perform your music well, everyone will recognize that. If you're playing for you, then you're stuck on your own layout and your own design and your own config. But if you just come there to just melt faces and have a good time and party with people, people are going to recognize that a lot sooner.
Yeah. Yeah. You got to be not necessarily a people's people, but you got to be a crowd pleaser. I agree. Now, if it gets stupid, if it gets ignorant, then that's a whole different ballgame.
I mean, that's where bar staff come in, right? That's where you need bouncers for.
Hopefully, they paid enough people and they're within code.
Hopefully.
But I do wholeheartedly agree. You got to keep an open mind. And I've never been in a band, and I've never. The only time I've gotten on stage is to either train somebody, yell at somebody or, be a hostess of some sorts, you know what I mean? But I've been to some places to where I'm just like, you could tell that there was no unity in the band, and you can tell that somebody was mad and it just rubbed off on everybody else. So they were not playing the way that they should have. They didn't have the oomph, the hypeness. They didn't have anything. They were just playing, like we was in somebody's garage on a Friday night with beer.
Yeah.
So
yeah, we all really like hanging out together at shows and off shows. Like it's such a nice feeling to not be so weighed down by ego. All of us are. And every band should be this way. It's like, just be open.
Yeah.
Just be open.
And have good communication skills and comprehension skills.
Yeah. As long as you're in the band. If you're outside the band and you're telling me how to play my music, then I'm probably going to have a hard time with you. But as most people might be. But in terms of I might be open to some stuff. But it's like, there's so much love in music, and I think there really is a lot of love amongst musicians.
Yeah,
you just have to find the right people who will love you back as much as you love, and this is one of the few groups where I feel as much love, probably more love than I can give back, and I think that is a phenomenal place to be.
Y'all are definitely harmonious. I've seen a couple of the videos that y'all put up on social media, and just y'all seem more like a family versus just some guys.
Feels like one. It definitely feels like one.
That is amazing. So y'all, please, please, please go to dreamtheheavy.com. Find them on Facebook, find them on YouTube, find them on Spotify, find them on IG and any major music platform. And if you have any questions, just reach out to see and if you're in the Pittsburgh area, you definitely need to reach out. Just go check them out one good time and make your own decisions,
Definitely come check us out. We are a live show first. Like we started out with great performers, and then we just turned it into a baller of a live show that got us a lot of attention pretty quickly. So, and we were able to translate that to an album. So weird, fun, sexy energy on stage works on a record for us.
I know that's right. But until next time, this is the HERshyt Show. It has been an honor speaking to Mr. Sully on drums. I still got to go look up the name so I can do some comparison. But
my groin hurts.
My groin hurts. That's what it sounds like.
No, I said my groin hurts.
It sounds like you said my groin hurts.
That's why you know why anyone can't take me seriously.
I don't know why I just put that in I'm not fooling with you, Mr. Sully. But until next time, this is the HERshyt Show. Go check them out. Bye.
Be sure to log on to youtube.com and subscribe to the HERshyt Show at TheherShytShow.